The NHL playoffs are set to begin tomorrow afternoon, or most of you are going to be watching the NHL playoffs begin today, or maybe some of you are going to watch days later. The NHL playoffs are underway. And I think this is going to be a very unique NHL playoff. In fact, it already is with the qualifying round. And I personally don't count the qualifying round as an official playoff round. I will say this, though. I am a huge fan of this 2014 playoff. I think it should be implemented for years to come. I think this should be the new normal because it just goes to show when you add more teams to a playoff or a tournament, the more chaos you're going to get out of it. And a perfect example of this is when the NCAA tournament first implemented the first four for the men's basketball tournament. VCU went all the way from the first four to the final four. And hopefully, with the MLB playoffs and the NFL playoffs being expanded, just like the NHL playoffs are, maybe we'll get chaos from that as well, and it could become the new normal. So anyway, 16 teams, 4 rounds, 1 Stanley Cup champion is how I have introduced every Stanley Cup predictions video I've done ever since 2016. So this is my 5th year doing it. And I'm going to add something new. I'm going to do a power ranking with all 16 teams. Now, this doesn't mean I don't think this team can win a certain round. This means what I think is the likelihood of them winning the Stanley Cup. I'm going to start off of who I have at 16 and then go all the way down to 1. So I will say at 16 I have the Calgary Flames. 15 I have the Montreal Canadiens, which the Canadiens, they pull off an upset against the Penguins in the qualifying round. But Carey Price can only do so much. And the Penguins, well, this is their second year exiting early from the playoffs. But to me, they didn't even make the playoffs because they lost the qualifying round. Because once again, I don't count the qualifying round as an official playoff round. Could the Canadiens maybe pull off the upset against the Flyers? Maybe, because we have seen some crazier things happen in these NHL playoffs. Just a few years ago, we saw the Predators, as barely getting into the playoffs, go all the way to the Stanley Cup final. And we're very close to forcing a Game 7 in the Stanley Cup final. We've even seen the Kings, as an 8 seed, win the Stanley Cup. 14 of the Vancouver Canucks. 13 I have the New York Islanders. Number 12 I have the Arizona Coyotes. Number 11 I have the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, the Chicago Blackhawks, they are facing a gauntlet. While they do have some experience on their team, it's still a fairly young team. And to ask them to go through the gauntlet that is the Western Conference, I think it's a tall order for even Blackhawks players that are experienced like Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews. Number 10, I have the Colorado Avalanche. And by the way, this should show that I haven't watched much of the National Hockey League before the suspension. So my lack of hockey knowledge this year is going to show, just like it kind of has pretty much in years past. Number 9, I have the Columbus Blue Jackets. Number 8, the Carolina Hurricanes. Now the Hurricanes, they pulled off a first-round upset last year against the Washington Capitals. But I think it's going to be a tall order to pull off a first-round upset this year against the Boston Bruins. We're very hungry to get back to the Stanley Cup final. Number 7, I have the Dallas Stars. Number 6, the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, this is a huge question mark for the Tampa Bay Lightning because they did get swept last year by the Columbus Blue Jackets. But personally, I think the Lightning, they're capable of recovering from last year's sweep. Because anything can happen this year. Number 5 are the Philadelphia Flyers, who clinched the 1 seed in the East. However, there are some teams that are ahead of them in this power ranking that have more experience in the playoffs than the Flyers do, and they are more recent to the Stanley Cup playoffs than the Flyers are. They have been in it more frequently lately than the Flyers is what I'm trying to say. Number 4 are the Boston Bruins. As I said just a second ago, they're very hungry to get back to the Stanley Cup final. And the Boston Bruins, while they haven't looked the best, they haven't looked like the best team during the qualifying round, but they still have the experience to get back to the Stanley Cup final. Number 3 are the Washington Capitals. Number 2 are the St. Louis Blues, the defending Stanley Cup champions. Now, the St. Louis Blues, the one thing that's questionable about them is their ability to hold a lead in the third period. Because we have seen throughout the qualifying round that the Blues, they get off to an early lead, but they can't seem to hold the lead after the third period. We've seen that happen in each of the 3 qualifying round games for the St. Louis Blues. But I think if they can learn to play with a lead, I think this team could very easily repeat. And the team that I think is favored to win the Stanley Cup is the Vegas Golden Knights. The Vegas Golden Knights, I think, are the favorite to hoist the Stanley Cup this season. Because to me, the Golden Knights have looked like the best team throughout this restart. They have shown that they can play from behind, that they can overcome adversity when they are trailing in games. We've seen them pull off wins against the Stars and the Blues when they are behind. So that is my power ranking for the 2020 NHL Playoffs. Now, another thing that I'm going to do that's quite new, the previous 4 years, I have done an entire NHL Playoffs bracket. Well, this year I'm not going to do that. This year I'm just going to predict round by round. And I'm going to start with the Vegas Golden Knights, who I said a second ago I think is my personal favorite to win the Stanley Cup this year, versus the Chicago Blackhawks. And I had addressed a moment ago earlier as well, the Blackhawks, they are a young team, but there is still some experience on the team. And I do think the Blackhawks will make this a series, but I think the Golden Knights will win this in 6. Next, we have the Colorado Avalanche versus the Arizona Coyotes. And I think the Coyotes make this a series as well. I think this goes all the way to 7 games. I have the Avalanche winning in 7. Next, we have the Dallas Stars versus the Calgary Flames. And I have the Stars winning this series in 5. Next, we have the St. Louis Blues and the Vancouver Canucks. The Canucks are back in the playoffs. And I'm going to go with St. Louis in 6. I think it's going to take some time to still adapt to playing hockey with a lead in the third period, because we've seen the Blues struggle with that, as I addressed a moment ago. I think Vancouver, they'll sneak in a win or 2, and the Blues will win in 6, maybe even 5. Next, we have the Philadelphia Flyers and the Montreal Canadiens. And Carey Price can only do so much for the Canadiens. The Flyers look like a really good team. They clinched the 1 seed in the East. But I have the Flyers winning in 5. It would surprise me a little bit, but it wouldn't surprise me completely that the Canadiens even made this a series and they took it to 6, even 7 games, let alone even win the series. But I do like the Flyers in 5 because Carey Price can only do so much for the Canadiens. Next are the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Columbus Blue Jackets. This was a series last year. The Columbus Blue Jackets just swept the Tampa Bay Lightning, the President's Trophies winners last year. And I think Tampa Bay is going to get the redemption against Columbus. I think it's going to be in 7 games, though. I think it's going to be a series that is fought all the way to the finish, the Lightning winning Game 7, probably in overtime. Next, we have the Washington Capitals and the New York Islanders. And I have this being a clean sweep for the Washington Capitals. I know that Barry Trotz is the coach of the Islanders now, and he knows the Washington Capitals, but unfortunately I think this Capitals team is a very strong team, and I think it's going to be a clean sweep for the Washington Capitals. And finally, we have the Boston Bruins and the Carolina Hurricanes. Can the Carolina Hurricanes pull off another first-round upset in the Stanley Cup Playoffs? they can, but I don't think they will. I think this is a very tall order for the Hurricanes. I think the Bruins will win in 5. So that is my playoff power ranking for the NHL Playoffs 2020 and my first round predictions. So I'm doing this round by round. So once the second round begins, I will put up my second round predictions as well, then conference final, and then the Stanley Cup final. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.